Hey guys, today's topic of the video is going to be about flexible and fluid sexuality. Does it exist or not? So in this video, I'll be covering some of the most important statements and most important things which are, I think, related to this topic. So the prerequisite for this video or the watch list or the reading list of this video is given in the description below under the title of recommended readings and watch list. So starting with the idea of gender bending. So it is difficult with gender to see sexuality as a socially construct, but not something which is biologically determined. For the idea of social construct, you should watch my video on queer theory and Derrida's notion of center. So anyhow, gender bending is happening all around us nowadays, and it is actually the idea if gender bending rolls from something is something essential or unchangeable or something to something changeable. So in gender bending we change the roles that particular kind of role that are traditionally assigned to men, and they are traditionally assigned to genders. But in gender bending, what we do, we change these roles. We can apply these rules the rules or roles of men to women, and women's rule or role to men. So gender bending is all about this. So gender and bending is simply the idea that genders are not determined biologically but are constructed socially and has a tendency to change like an idea. So gender roles and gender signifiers are changing and shifting daily because of this flexibility. So moving towards next slide, which is also about gender bending. So gender roles and gender signifiers are shifting and changing, and they are changing and shifting daily, which means to say that, for example, we see women with tattoos and men with visible ear or nose piercing, etc. So we see men and women wearing opposite clothes, etc. and all this. Often in award shows, like in Hollywood award shows or like Met Galas and etc., there is the happening of men is wearing women things, and they are sometimes unisex things, or these kind of things, which is all about gender bending. So all this makes gender easily to see as a system of signifiers which can be changed. So moving towards next slide, which shows that we usually growing up learning through culture that gender is all about style of dress and sexuality is all about biologically, that one with vagina is female and male and male with penis is male, and their sexuality is heterosexual, and that's all. So we can take two meanings of sexuality through culture. First is that sexuality in terms of animalistic instincts, whose behaviors are programmed by hormones or by seasonal cycles over which they have no control. And the second notion of sexuality is the sexuality in terms of morals and ethics, like where behaviors are coded and as good and evil and moral and immoral, over which we have a rigid control. So moving towards next slide, and let's understand the first category of sexuality, which is thought to be more like instinctual. So here sexuality is as a sexual responses are almost purely biological. We respond to what sexually is encoded in our genes or DNA or hormones as defined by our reproductive behaviors. So those who follows or those who are more into the evolutionary ideas, they believe in such support stance. that all sexuality or sexual behaviors are encoded in our genes, and it is duty of every species to try to preserve and pass on genetic makeup. So we will have to do so we understand human sexual behaviors by understanding human sexual by animal sexual behavior, but it is not the case, because this model has some problems, and I will tell you how in this blue section. So human sexuality does not work like animal sexuality, because human female does not come into heat cycles every after every time, and and all men and all human men don't frantically run after female for sex, just like in cats and dogs, and so the all sexual activities were done in humans, in animals for reproduction purposes, but it is not in that the case in humans. Human sexuality work differently. Like humans do copulate or have sex more or less at will, and they have their own will in sex, and regardless of hormones and cycles. So for humans, sexual activity and reproduction are two different things, and we have enormous collection of sexual behaviors and activities. So, human sexual activity is about pleasure, and that is mediated by all culture and categories. So, moving towards the second part of the ideas that sexuality in terms of morality, and when we see sexuality in terms of morality and ethics, there is a Western idea of sexuality that comes from different sources, which are religion, science, politics, economics, and all this is investigated in Michel Foucault's book, The History of Sexuality. And if you want to know more about this book and its volume, you can comment in the comment section if you want a video series on this book. So moving forward, sexuality is often defined in terms of economics and politics. When problems like abortion laws, birth control, and population control arise, such ideas about sexuality gives it a form of moral statement, that what kind of sexuality is good or right or bad or wrong or immoral. And these categories of morals regarding sexuality change over time, is not essential or innate or timeless, but are made of sexual construct because of some ideology, and that is not something which can be changed. So through biology, religion, politics, economics, these ways of defining sexuality have produced a clear-cut categories of what is right and what is wrong. And all these ideas are linked to the ideas about reproduction and family life. So I hope that you understand this. So moving towards next slide, which is about an author, an article by Gail Rubin, which article's name is Thinking Sex, Notes for a Radical Theory of the Politics of Sexuality. So it has the idea, this article has the idea about sexuality are structured in binary opposition, where one side of the pair is positive, good, moral, right, whereas the other side word is about sexuality is negative, immoral, bad, and wrong. So you should watch my video on binary opposition and Derrida's notion of center and deconstruction, so you will get the idea what this slide is all about. And then let's explain this thing. So Rubin argues that deconstruction of the binary opposition is to separate all kind of sexual behavior from any moral judgment. So all she wants is to keep sexuality away from moral judgments. So but here is a thing, that all kind of sexual behaviors are away from moral judgment, then what about sex of no consent? What about rapes? Sorry for mentioning this word, but it's a problem, right? It's a serious problem if all kind of sexual behaviors or sexual activities are away from moral judgment. So what about sex with no instincts, marital rape, and these kind of things happening all around? So sexual behavior, in one point, sexual behavior in human culture is not just about reproduction and pleasure, but about power and dominance. Alright, so that's a problem underlying here. Sex is not about pleasure and reproduction, it's about power and show of power and dominance as well. So how powerful links are between sexual activities and notion of morality? This link comes from defining sexuality as a part of identity rather than just activity which one might engage in. So that open a huge debate, an interesting debate. So let's end this slide. It's keeping in mind the last slide of the sexuality as a part of identity. It means that if one have a genital sexual intercourse or sexual sexual contact with someone of the same sex, then one is not just having a homosexual sex, but one is homosexual. So sexuality is equal to identity. If you do homosexual sex with someone, you are homosexual. Alright, so that identity is linked to moral judgment about both homosexual acts and heterosexual and homosexual identities. And I would recommend you to watch movie Brokeback Mountain for this concept. So that was all. You should watch videos which are given in the description box under the heading of recommended watch, so that you can get the idea of all this. So the next video is coming about gay lesbian literary criticism and gay lesbian studies. So it will be last of this of this series, and after that we will be moving towards ideology, Marxism, etc. So thanks for watching. You can also subscribe to this channel. You can share, like and comment for further inquiry. Thank you.